Do you think you're a genius? Probably not. Even if you are a pretty smart person, that designation of a genius is a rarefied one, reserved for a very special few. But my guest today reveals some shocking and thought-provoking ideas, many of them actually, but one being that most of us are born with and operate at genius level until about the age of 4, when the pressures of life tend to suppress this. But it is up to us to win back that brilliance and that genius. Welcome to Cool Time Life. I'm Steve Prentice. Each of our Cool Time Life podcasts focuses on a topic dealing with people, productivity, technology, and work life, and each offers ideas and facts you need to know about to thrive in today's busy world. An index of our podcasts is available at cooltimelife.com. You know, it is so sad to see humans worn down and beaten down, not only through the realities of life, but also through the attitudes and words of other people, especially those who we look up to. That is why it is so refreshing to spend some time with someone who has made it his life's mission to give people the ability to regain that sense of pride and confidence that too often gets suppressed. It is my pleasure to welcome Simon T. Bailey to the Cool Time Life podcast.
Oh my goodness, thank you for having me. So good to be with you.
Well, this is such an exciting topic, Simon. I am hoping that everyone who meets you, either through this podcast or through your other appearances, starts to associate your name with the word brilliance. It comes through in your style and it's so visible in your work. So can we start there? What is brilliance, according to Simon T. Bailey?
So, brilliance is the life source of everything that I talk about. And here's why. We did a national study of working Americans and we asked them to define brilliance. And working Americans told us that brilliance is creativity, intelligence, wait for it, and confidence. So, what I begin to realize when individuals have this ability to be confident despite all of the uncertainty that surrounds them, it impacts their intellect. So, in other words, they practice AI, actual intelligence, and they become creative.
Oh, I love that. What a great use of the term AI, bringing it back into the human sphere like that. Now, from a physiological standpoint, would you say that you can attribute this to endorphins or to pheromones, something chemical, for example? Is there something that triggers us physically as well as mentally and spiritually inside to become great through this positive sense?
One of the things that unlocks our brilliance is when we help others with no strings attached. So let me give you the research from Emory University. Emory University says every time you help someone else, the reward centers in our brain begin to light up almost as if we have been on the receiving end of the person we just helped. And guess what they call it? They call it the helper's high. So when I am helping someone else, giving a hand up, not a handout, saying, "Good morning, how are you?" Holding the door for someone that's coming behind me on an airplane, helping a person with their luggage, you get more out of giving yourself away to help someone without looking for anything in return.
Of course, when picturing such a great and a very human image, the first thing that comes to my mind is where we are right now, including what we see in the media and on social media, especially in terms of a great polarization in society, where this kind of obvious benefit, this opportunity to get the helper's high and to help people, it seems to be constantly getting pushed aside. I'm thinking of situations like road rage or getting angry in a supermarket or a drive-through or something. So, do you think that that is the result, perhaps, of sensory isolation that comes from too much time on social media? Or do you think this is something people can be cured of and that they can rediscover that desire to help others? And how, if so, how could we go about getting that started?
So, yes, it's isolation, but it's also understanding that life is not a remote control. You have the power to change the channel on your television. So, every person listening to us, number one, has to begin to say, how do I come from a place of kindness for who I become in the process? Number two, how do I self reflect every day and say, what went well today instead of what's wrong? Because sometimes you listen to the media and you know they say if it bleeds, it leads. So what I'm saying is you are your own media person. Control the input so it determines the output. And then the third thing is every single day, ask yourself, what can I do instead of what I can't do. Because research says that by the time a child is 17 years of age, they have heard no 150,000 times and only yes 5,000 times. So when you say to yourself, what can I do? You're saying yes to yourself.
I've met many people who've gone through exactly that spiral of negativity. I think people will be surprised at those numbers, though. No, they'll be surprised at first, and then they'll say, yeah, I can see that. So, Simon, you have a heightened view of human existence and human potential. You're able to see a positivity that many have lost sight of, and you also have a remarkably vivid way of describing the solutions in ways that people will not forget. So, how did you become part of this? What motivated you to discover this and to share this message?
So 20 years ago, my mentor asked me, how was I doing? And I said to him, quite frankly, if I had white skin, blonde hair, blue eyes, it would be easy for me to succeed in America. And he said, Simon, you're stuck in your mind and your body thinking the pigmentation of your skin limits your opportunities. You weren't born to fit in, you were born to be brilliant. And when he said it, it literally unlocked something in me. I had a visceral reaction because no one had ever told me that I was born to be brilliant. So I started down this whole journey of trying to understand brilliance and genius. And I stumbled upon some of the work of Dr. Howard Gardner, who is professor of education at Harvard. Dr. Gardner, he and his team of researchers did an interesting study over a 20 plus year period. And what they discovered is children up until the age of 4 are operating at the genius level. This same group of children was studied in their early 20s, and only 10% were still operating at the genius or what I call the brilliance level. And in their late 20s, early 30s, only 2% were still operating at the genius or brilliance level. So the question that you have, like I had, and all the listeners are asking is, where did this genius or brilliance go? It didn't go anywhere. It became buried by a society that says color within the lines, sit down, give it back, you can't do this. And what I discovered along my research journey is that your conformity robs you of creativity because you have to study to the test. You have to color within the lines. You have to go to school, get married, and then end up in a white picket fence. And that's not reality. So I wanted to understand, how do people really tap into their brilliance? So this has been my life's work for the last 20 years.
The idea that so many kids get their genius suppressed as they grow up is shocking. But now that I think about it, I have vivid memories myself of that very thing happening to me and my friends all through those years of schooling. And I've also certainly seen it in work environments as well. So you have discovered this, you have recognized this as your calling, and you are delivering this message to audiences everywhere. What is the reaction of people when they first hear you and they essentially get permission from you to rediscover themselves? What happens next? Do you have to go back and remind them of this periodically? Do you have to go back and give them a booster? Or does this start them on a new positive track that they themselves can carry forward?
We've heard from people all over the world. I give you an example. There's a lady by the name of Olivia that lives in Killarney, Ireland, and she heard me teach over a decade ago. She has since, after embracing the message, has since gone on to be one of the top luxury designers in all of Ireland because she began to understand that she had brilliance that was suppressed and she needed to release it.
Let's talk about time now. You are delivering to people the idea that they can rediscover their innate genius, their brilliance, and that it is their right to do so. You're giving us the permission that is so often needed, but most people are also really busy, or they seem
Right.
really busy. So even if they perceive they have this brilliance inside them, how can they find the time to learn it? What's the best way to get started?
Well, the first thing is I would invite everyone to take their meds. And meds is an acronym: meditate, exercise, diet, and sleep. So at the very beginning of the day, in that meditation area, meditate on your brilliance. Begin to identify what's working. What do you anticipate? How will you add value to the day every day? That's the first thing. And then the second thing, at the end of the day, self reflect. How did I grow today? How did I add value today? How am I going to make a difference tomorrow? And this becomes a habit because you don't decide the future, you decide your habits. and your habits decide the future. So everyone is being invited to make an appointment with yourself. First of the day, during the day, end of the day before your head hits the pillow.
There was that time, a generation or more ago, back in the analog era, where people would walk and think. They might walk to the store or to the bus stop or to the office from the place that they parked their car. And during that time, they did not have a phone to check emails or to return a call. Same thing if you took a cab, you talk to the cab driver. You eat lunch, you look around. I am not trying to be overly nostalgic here, but it can't be denied that one of the things that has changed us substantially since the arrival of the cell phone, and certainly with social media on that phone, is the time to think. It has been eliminated and replaced by an algorithm-driven hypnosis. Would you say that maybe one of the problems here is that because people are so constantly distracted by algorithm-driven social media that they don't have that time for self-reflection?
Absolutely. Believe it or not, social media, and with all due respect to social media, I use social media, but it can become an addictive drug because once the algorithm taps into what you're interested in, it blitzes it to you. And if you don't have the wherewithal to turn it off, all of a sudden it triggers trauma. It brings up this fear of missing out, FOMO. It also causes what I call and coin CIC, comparison inferiority complex, because I'm comparing my life to someone on Instagram and I'm wondering why they are doing better than me, and I become inferior in questioning my journey in my life. So I invite people, turn off social media, put it aside, especially before you go to sleep at night. Put your phone in the other room if you can, but don't allow social media to form your worldview. Understand things for yourself.
One of your key points is around leaders. You say that 55% of working Americans would take a slightly lower paying job to work for a manager or a leader who inspires brilliance. Now, we've covered a lot of great leadership topics on this podcast, so now that you and I have spoken about the potential that every person has to individually rediscover their brilliance, we need to face the reality that we work for people who may or may not even know about this. We look to leaders for inspiration, and it would be great if they could deliver the type of inspiration that you deliver. I know there are many people who do want to be great leaders, so what can they do to genuinely help their people rediscover their brilliance?
So, let me make an overarching statement that I want to give you some practical takeaways. The job of a leader or manager is not to motivate people to work harder. That's not the purpose. The job of leadership and management is to invite people on a journey to discover the leader within themselves while they're following you. So, a leader can never take a person to a place that they have not been themselves. Okay, so that's the umbrella, 30,000 feet. I invite every leader to first of all deal with who they are and ask themselves, why am I leading? Why am I managing? Is it because I have a need to boss people around and tell people what to do? Or do I care about the releasing of human potential in human beings? So understand, is this a job or is it a calling? Because it's two totally different things. The second thing is, leaders understand how to coach people up or coach them out. Now, here's what I mean by that: coaching people up. What is their appreciation language? What's their strength? What do they bring to the table? And how do you coach them in such a way by using the appreciation language that becomes the tripwire for them to work beyond what they're paid to do? It all comes down to coaching. But then the third thing is, as a leader, will you allow them to get a chance behind the steering wheel and actually lead? How do people learn to drive a car? They get behind the wheel and they're taught by a parent, a friend, or a driving instructor. Here's how you drive the car. Leaders have to raise leaders by moving themselves out of the way and saying, I give the baton to you, not because of my ego, but because I understand eco. encouraging, caring often. I care about you, that I want to move out of the way so that you can lead us into the future.
Your writings and your speaking not only talk about brilliance, they also mention resilience. So, where does resilience come into this?
So think about it this way. Business and life is like surfing in the ocean. You are knocked off your surfboard with uncertainty, change, transformation. It's your resilience that allows you to pop back up on the surfboard, and it's your brilliance that allows you to catch the next wave. So we asked working Americans, how do they define resilience? And here's what they told us: it's perseverance, problem solving, and grit. So, in other words, my resilience allows me to have what Marie Forleo calls figure out ability, so that I bend, don't break, I become better, not bitter. That's resilience in a nutshell. Individuals who operate in their resilience and brilliance, they have the ability to anticipate and to see what's not yet. And what businesses need right now are anticipatory thinkers that can say, this doesn't exist. What if? And it's the what if that becomes the innovative breakthrough, that question that immerses people on a quest to say, what can we do instead of what we can't do?
It is a very liberating feeling to be given this awareness that such freedom can exist. So, Simon T. Bailey, I would like to thank you so much for packaging these pieces of wisdom in such memorable ways today. Thank you for joining me here on the Cool Time Life podcast.
Thank you so much.
Simon is not only a great speaker and orator, he is also a prolific author. His groundbreaking research, entitled State of Working America Report Thriving in Resilience and Brilliance, certainly solidifies his insights and forms part of his 11th book, Resilience at Work: How to Coach Yourself into a Thriving Future. Definitely worth checking that out, and you can find more about Simon and his work at simontbailey.com. That is spelled SIMONTBAILEY.com, and that link is in the show notes. If you have a comment about this podcast, join the conversation on LinkedIn. My ID there is Stephen Prentice, Steven Prentice, Prentice, or feel free to drop me a line through the contact form at cooltimelife.com, where you'll find a full listing of our evergreen Cool Time Life episodes. If you feel you are getting value from this series, please leave a review and tell just one person about us or mention us on social media. And if you want, you can support us on Patreon. Contributions from our listeners allow me and my team to spend more time researching and preparing our podcast series. So if that feels fair to you, please visit patreon.com/Steve Prentice. Until next time, stay safe and thanks for listening.